where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
Now, this is a series explaining the system and components behind the Foundry, which is the spearhead of the Blackbird Renaissance. Now, first off, I think it's really important to define the Blackbird Renaissance and the idea of the Blackbird Renaissance. And this is really to be interpreted as a repair of the system from outside of the system. And the idea is we are not in the system, but we are also not separated from the system. I want you guys to really, really imagine a scaffold around a building and working to understand and mold what's to be. And I really want this to appeal to a large, as large section of the populace as possible, but also when it comes down to people who are more conspiracy minded. And the idea here is, many people believe that they can completely separate themselves from a system and live out in the middle of nowhere and not be bothered. And that should be interpreted as kicking the ball down the road. And the idea is we don't want to do that. And we realize the fault in doing that, because when you kick the ball down the road, when things do catch up and you are in the crosshairs, there are only going to be less people around to hear your complaints, or even worse, your screams. Now, this is very, very much something that I'd want us to kind of work on in terms of bringing us into the fold, right? And not to say that everything that I say on this channel you're going to agree with, but understanding that you do need to, you should come into the fold, and society benefits from you in the fold, or it connected to the fold in any way, if not in the fold. And this is in terms of being a scaffold and kind of how we view this idea of the Blackbird Renaissance. This is an acknowledgement of two things. One, the failure and the need to repair a system, right? But it also is an acknowledgement of the fact that there are aspects of society that we should should salvage in terms of really building a society worthwhile. When you think about, there are stories about kind of the Egyptians lasting for thousands and thousands of years. In terms of the idea here, we want that for our society as well. Now, a lot can be said about whether we'll be, number one in the currency and things of that nature. But this is something, this idea of a society that works, I think everybody can agree with a fair society for everyone. And I think that basis of we can figure it out is in the Constitution from, the people, in terms of the mass amount of people figuring how this society will operate versus a king or royalty somehow dictating how society operates. I think there is power in that, and regardless of how it is written in the Constitution, if there is or will be revisions to the Constitution, I think is a separate story. But that spirit, I think, is something that is solidified and something that we should work on in general. And when it comes down to this idea of recognizing, aspects of the society, there's a quote a quote in a book from, I want to say, Bevan, where he talks about mass protest and how a mass protest is essentially the mass amount of people yelling to the upper class is that we're not happy and you fix this. And this is I think unacceptable in so many different ways, because like I said, when it comes down to the people deciding and deciding what happens in the future, this is something that we need to really be more cognizant of in terms of how we run in the future. When it comes down to people in general, there's a concept of an armchair intellectual and an idea of an armchair intellectual, and I think they have a purpose in terms of people who are very intellectual in nature definitely have a purpose, but when it comes down to bringing these guys in the fold to break down and look at society as it is now and how to fix society, I think that a lot of you guys do need to come into the fold, and you kind of should come into the realize that there is something that you need to contribute, and be more action oriented to contribute that. In terms of people who are or the opposite end of the coin, the people who have given up on society, they simply understand that, hey, there is corruption and we can't, there is absolute corruption, we can't do anything about it, and kind of removing yourself from, and kind of removing yourself from society in a certain way and not learning about the intricacies of what we have here. I think you guys would do good to learn about the intricacies and team up with quote unquote armchair intellectuals to really start to figure things out. Not to say that you need to simply accept without question what is said to you, but the idea of moving forward and what we do, I really do think that it is it's painful to really learn and learn more, but it's worth it, and I promise you it is. When you get to a certain understanding, it does get easier, I promise you. And this is really kind of the Blackbird Renaissance in terms of the vision for the Blackbird Renaissance. And the Foundry, it's really designed to be a physical mixed-use development and a system that is also designed to empower individuals and groups of people in kind of these group and kind of what we call guilds or tribes, right? And the idea is to platform people to transform the world around them and make some sense, right? Because the idea is when society starts to make sense to the masses, that is when what we have here, this experiment that we have here, is operating best. Now, in terms of the Foundry itself, it does come with guilds. It comes with a few guilds, and we'll go over that in terms of foundational guilds, if you'll excuse the term, Foundry and Foundation. But the idea is they come with guilds, and these guilds are kind of they're really instrumental in having the Foundry in general, and making the Foundry in general. And we'll use this series to expand on various aspects of the Foundry and the Blackbird Renaissance. And I really hope that you guys really hope to see you soon. Thank you.